We welcome you to a virtual episode of Shamrock Sports, and we want to take you through all that's going on right now in the spring season. We got JJ Post, Andrew McGuiness, and John Daly with us, and we've got it all working out right now. So let's first start what happened in our spring season since we left. We had Dylan Jacobs win the 10,000 meter. Then women's lacrosse lost to the University of Michigan. Men's tennis fell to Columbia 4-2. Men's golf came in 9th at the Palm Beach Regional. Then Chiavione competed in the NCAA Regional for women's golf, and then softball fell to McNeese State twice in the Evanston Regional. However, there is one team still going that we're all here and psyched to talk about, and that's Notre Dame baseball right now. They are punched their ticket to Omaha this past weekend, and we're here to talk about that. But before we talk about Omaha, we got to talk about how they got here. And the big reason why is that Statesboro region, which many thought Notre Dame should have been hosting a regional. They never even thought that they weren't even going to host a regional. So guys, I open it up to our phenomenal panel of people. What do we think about them getting sent to Statesboro to begin and not even host in South Bend?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a sentiment that even though it was not their regional and they were in Georgia Southern Territory, it was still Notre Dame's regional to lose. Because I think, to be fair, I didn't know a single person who was not really surprised that Notre Dame did not host the regional. The debate going in, at least it had seemed, and this is not just like a Notre Dame bias thing, the national debate it seemed was, had Notre Dame done enough to host the super regional? So I think there was kind of a sense of like, wait, what just happened? Because when they announced the regional sites, it wasn't even Notre Dame on there. So there was kind of a day for that to set in. And I think during that day, kind of that like school of thought emerged that like, okay, well, Notre Dame's not hosting, but it's still a team that's red hot. It's still a team that has all the pieces from a team last year that put together a run. It's still a team that has one of the best coaches in the game. And it's still a team that now has a little bit of fire behind them, a little bit of motivation. No team has ever really hurt from a prove the doubters wrong mindset. And I think Notre Dame I don't think they ever needed that extra fire. That's not something this team ever lacked. But I do think it's something that, really it stacked the deck even further against any team that got stacked with the regional, because this was a Notre Dame team that wanted to play in South Bend. And I felt like the committee for the second straight year had kind of done them short. I think that was this team's, kind of thought process heading into, the Statesboro regional. Yeah, we're not hosting, but we're still the best team here and we're going to prove it.
Yeah, you talk about extra motive. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good, John.
I was just going to say, you talk about that extra motivation, that fire inside of you, whiteboard material. You got the whiteboard right there. I definitely think that was a contributing factor. And people talk a lot about these days about the devaluation of the manager position, especially in Major League Baseball. But I think it's just, Link Jarrett is such a phenomenal manager. What he's done in this program the last couple of years is nothing short of a miracle, the way he's transformed Notre Dame into such a powerhouse, having the third highest winning percentage over the last 3 seasons, only behind, Tennessee, is pretty impressive, right? And I think that he definitely was able to rally the guys, Link Jarrett, the leader of men that he is, and they just went into Statesboro with such a fire inside of them. And you really saw that in the 3 games against Texas Tech and specifically Georgia Southern. I thought that was kind of a, sneak preview of what we saw in the Tennessee series, where they really got the bats going with all those home runs. They had 3 home runs in that game. And I think that you've seen them swing the bat a lot better with a lot more power and pop. And I think they're going to need to keep that going. Jarrett's going to need to keep motivating them if they're going to have a chance against Texas now.
Yeah, and to JJ's point, this is something for Notre Dame that's really been festering since the end of last season when they lost in the Starkboro Super Regional. I remember the Irish talking a lot about, the disappointment and sadness of seeing Mississippi State, who of course went on to win the national championship last year, dogpiling in front of them, and how they were going to be extra motivated this season to be the ones doing the celebrating. And of course, they've obviously wound up going on to do that. But I think to JJ's point, the fact that they got snubbed basically out of hosting a regional, I think just kind of played into that mantra that Notre Dame has been building towards all season. And then they were really able to, hone in and take advantage and, obviously sweep through the regional and start not in Starkboro, is it? Or is that, yeah.
Statesboro, correct.
Statesboro,
Andrew.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got my years mixed up.
No, you're good. And when many people saw it, they saw Georgia Southern, not a Power 5 school by any means. However, Notre Dame took it and ran the board. And then once again, They drawed what many thought was a bad draw in playing the number one team in the country in Tennessee. And now we'll move to the Knoxville regional, where guys, they showed up and showed out. And really, many people talk about it. As Tom Hart said in the final call on the broadcast, it was the upset in college baseball this year. Many people considered Tennessee the team on a next level. They thought this was the best college baseball, best well-rounded team that anyone in the entire sport has ever seen. However, Notre Dame took them down in their super regional, pushing that game 3 and then seeing it and then taking fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting, Notre Dame's path to victory in that series against Tennessee, because they did some things that they've been doing a lot all season, but they also won in a couple different ways that they haven't necessarily hasn't been their keys to victory throughout the year. Notre Dame defensively is one of the stronger teams in the country. They're top 15 in fielding percentage. Link Jarrett called it the difference in deciding Friday's game 1 of that 3-game series. And then Notre Dame was really able to take advantage of some Tennessee mistakes in Sunday's game, helped to pull away with scoring some unearned runs in the 8th inning. But the Irish won with their bats and specifically their power hitting. 7 home runs for Notre Dame in that series, in that 3-game series, averaging over 2 per game. That's way more than they were averaging in the regular season. I believe they hit about 68 or so in the 52 games coming into the Tennessee regional. So for them to, power through, it was a big boost for this Notre Dame offense, and it was a needed one because the starting pitching was not at the level that we've usually seen. The 2 best pitchers for Notre Dame, Austin Temple and John Michael Bertrand, both really labored in their starts. And no one was expecting a deep start really from Liam Simon on Sunday, but he wasn't even able to get out of the 2nd inning. So Notre Dame's bats and obviously Jack Finley out of the bullpen, who I'm sure we'll talk about, 2 key components that you wouldn't have thought in late March would be the ones leading them past the number 1 team in the country and one of the best teams in college baseball in recent memory. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about that being, the upset of the year, right? Nobody could believe that Notre Dame was able to knock off Tennessee. They went 53-7 in the regular season, 57 wins in total, the best ERA in all of college baseball, and they got absolutely lit up. You talk about that first game, right? They had home runs in the first 3 innings for a 5-0 lead. Blake Tidwell, who's supposed to be a number 1, first-round pick this year, alongside Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck, he got absolutely rocked by these Irish hitters, and it kind of just reminds me little shades of the 2014, 2015 Kentucky Wildcats, this generational team. I think we can say that this Tennessee team was truly generational, how good they are, with how their combination of, pitching and hitting and defense was just next level. And this is going to be one of the biggest disappointments of any team in college baseball history, really. But I think you hit something, Andrew, when you talked about the unearned runs that Notre Dame was able to score, that Tennessee had 4 errors in both of the games that Notre Dame ended up winning. And I think it's taking advantage of, these errors and poor fielding situations to get these men on base. That's going to be absolutely critical for Notre Dame going forward. You saw how they were able to take advantage of those situations in Knoxville. And I think they're going to have to do the same in Texas, as we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I think if I were to talk about why Notre Dame beat Tennessee, I think you can boil it down to 4 key points: good coaching, quality pitching, even better defense, and timely hitting. The first one, we'll start off with the obvious. Link Jarrett put on, I wouldn't call it a masterclass, but it was pretty dang close to one because, I think we'll talk about Broad first. We've said it already. What Link Jarrett has done with this program is nothing short of one of the best jobs in college baseball, because I think when people think of Notre Dame, they think of the football program, obviously one of the nation's best, the basketball program, historically pretty stable, the women's basketball program, one of the blue bloods of women's basketball. There are a lot of teams at Notre Dame that I think there's a reputation usually around programs, especially, kind of a flagship sport like baseball, where you kind of assume Notre Dame is a great job. Notre Dame's a team that's going to consistently be good, because recently they've been pretty good. But that's not the case of this team. This was a rebuild by all means by Link Jarrett, and one that he's not just brought to competency. He brought a team that kind of was struggling for consistency, struggling to, just be not even a contender, but, a mid-level team in the ACC at times. He brought that team to a contending team in the ACC, and then he built off it. He didn't just rebuild the team, he reloaded it. He brought it back, and I think he's built a culture in the program that's a winning one. He's built a roster that obviously has the talent to go head-to-head with some of the big boys in the college baseball and ACC world. And I think that's something that, if you're Jack Swarbrick, let's put the cards on the table here. There are going to be no short list of suitors for Link Jarrett once this tournament ends. And, I think we all know with his alma mater, Florida State, job open, that's going to be a tough pitch. But if there is any possibility, any at all, that Link is open to stay in Notre Dame, you need to take out the blank check. You need to put out whatever he wants, facility upgrades, a new contract. Maybe he can get one of Freeman's Ferrari, a Ferrari like Brian Freeman, whatever he wants. This is a job that has earned it. And not just because he went on a good run, because he has taken this team from, it was never mediocre, but inconsistent and middling, and made it over the last 2 years, one of the teams to be reckoned with in college baseball. Link Jarrett praise aside, let's talk about the rest of this. Quality pitching. I mean, one of the things Link Jarrett did was he kind of made a bold choice, I'd say, in not going with John Michael Bertrand game one. He didn't know what would happen game one. If you lose game one, you face an elimination game, which you don't know if your best pitcher is going to be able to give you game three. It was a interesting choice from the outset because, I think people thought, conventional wisdom says, like they're going to do against Texas, when you face a 2-game series, game one, you put your ace on the mound. That's John Michael Bertrand. He's been all season the guy that when they want their best pitcher on the mound, they go to John Michael Bertrand. And he didn't do that. He saved Bertrand for game two. And we go to what happened, and what happened in game one is Notre Dame got by without him, and they put Bertrand in a position to succeed, and they put themselves in a position that when Bertrand got unexpectedly lit up, they were still in position to win the series, because this was a team that, going to the timely hitting point, they started strong and they ended strong. They opened up game one with swagger. Tennessee was the team all year. They had the swagger, they had the cool factor, they had the electricity. All of that's true. But what Notre Dame did was they kind of, put it in their own face. They turned it around. They were the team that came out with the bats fire and they hit a home run in the first 4 innings. This was not a team that anyone expected to be a power hitting, kind of an electric offense. But it was a team that when they needed it most in the first 4 innings, they put Tennessee on the back foot immediately, and Tennessee kind of struggled to, in game one, fight back from that. And then after losing game two and having really been shut down all throughout game three, when they needed it most in game three, they roared back. The comeback was on. They got timely hitting. They had a rally, and they really, once they got the momentum, they sustained it. And I think that's what's most impressive. It's very easy to, hit a home run to tie the game and hit another one, take the lead. But then when they needed the insurance in the next inning, they added on. They didn't just, kind of fall flat after, going in and have to play defense. Now they're up by 1 run, you hold the 1 run lead. No, they put their foot on the gas. And that's something that I think, certain other Notre Dame teams, I'm not going to compare them to other sports, in the past have struggled with. And this was a game in which Notre Dame needed to add on, because against Tennessee, as we've talked about, one of the best offenses in baseball. They will light you up at any given opportunity. And I think what Notre Dame did that I couldn't say I really expected them to do was, even after they got their home run, even after they got their power stroke, they came back in the next inning and kept on going. And I think that ultimately, even though the scoreline wouldn't indicate it, was the factor that kind of kept the momentum in the Irish's direction, kept them in a position that even when Tennessee had the less reps, it felt like Notre Dame was in control of the game. It felt like it wasn't a 1-run lead that any Tennessee hitter could tie back up in a stroke of the bat. It felt like an inning where they have to get a long streak of hits. And from a mentality standpoint, that's so much more manageable.
And JJ, you talked about like the impact Link Jarrett's had. I know John mentioned that as well. There are a lot of ways you can measure that. You can measure it, if you were saying in the 8th inning on Sunday when they didn't sit complacent with that 1-run lead. You can measure it just in the fact they're at Omaha in the first place. But Jack Brannigan, who had this quote after Sunday's game. When I first committed to Notre Dame, there were people who actually said to me, you better hope you win a ring in high school because you're never going to win in college. That's the kind of program that it was. And I'm just so happy to be part of the team that rebuilds it. And I think that's just a great encapsulation of Link Jarrett's first 3 years here at Notre Dame. And I certainly hope this isn't the end of the line for Jarrett here, because as someone who's always been a big baseball fan and a big Notre Dame fan growing up, it feels like I've never had the two intersect really at all. And it's been really cool watching this Irish team, do what they do. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game and the rest of the College World Series.
And those final score lines in that Knoxville regional was game 1, 8-6 Notre Dame. Then Tennessee laid it on them 12-4. And then Notre Dame, like we talked about, timely hitting in game 3 really propelled them forward, winning 7-3. And now you move on, take down one of the best teams in baseball. However, like Andrew alluded to, they're not done. This isn't just, you can't get caught in the headlights in the praise and fame and all that following Sunday. They now have a job to get done. They now play at 6:00 on Friday against the number 9 ranked team in the country and a red hot Longhorns team that really is, they're on the, as many have called it, the college football side of this men's college World Series bracket, as you have Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas, and Notre Dame, as well as on the other side, you're going to have Arkansas, Stanford, Ole Miss, and Auburn in the College World Series as well. And really, guys, got a 2-game series. They're tossing John Michael Bertrand out for game 1 against Texas.
Yeah, and I think that's the move. While it doesn't line up with the move that he made in the Super Regional against Tennessee, in which Temple got game 1, I think it's the one that makes the most sense for Texas because they have a pitcher in Texas is a team like Tennessee. The strength of Tennessee was no matter who they brought in, they were giving you, one of the best pitchers in the sport. Texas has a good staff, but it's not to that extent. When they put their ace, Pete Hansen, on the mound, that is going to be their best hitter, their best pitcher, apologies. And once you get them off the mound, there's going to be some level of drop off. It's not going to be bad pitching by any means, but it's Pete Hansen in the field for Texas's, staff, Texas rotation. And Texas is putting Pete Hansen on the mound. They're giving him the ball in game 1. They want to take control of their destiny in game 1. And I think if you're Notre Dame, you can't mess around with that. You don't want to put yourself in a position of weakness in which you go down one game and you put yourself on elimination because, I think as we saw against Tennessee, John Michael Bertrand is one of the best pitchers in the ACC. He's Notre Dame's best pitcher. He's a player with a ton of experience and he's a great pitcher, but he's not infallible because Tennessee did indeed in game 2 light him up. That was a game that, I think people thought once Notre Dame won game 1, it's like, oh, Bertrand's got it for game 2. We're good to go. No, he's not infallible. But that's not to say he's not the best pitcher in the Irish staff. He is by a large margin. But I think if you put him on the mound game 1, you don't run the risk of, having to go to game 2 and have your backs against the wall and not really have a backup plan if Bertrand starts getting hit. You kind of, it's not saying there's not always going to be a risk no matter who you put on the mound because none of the Irish pitchers are, future Cy Young Award winners. Apologies in case any of them end up winning a Cy Young, but none of them realistically will. And any of them, you run the risk of, a 5-run streak because that's the nature of college baseball. Bats get going. It's the aluminum bats. Some balls go long. Some of them are going to be producing doubles, triples. Anything's possible in the sport. And it's a very offensive oriented sport. Notre Dame's a defensive team. Notre Dame wants to win a game 3-2. And I think by putting John Michael Bertrand on the mound game 1, you try to take control of your destiny. You try to, get your ace out there, get your first win, put yourself on the doorstep and not against the wall. And I think that's, ultimately for Link Jarrett, even though he's changing strategies, even though he's not saving his pitcher for game 2, I think that's the kind of mentality you need if you're Notre Dame. If you want to, be one of the contenders this series, that's the move you make where you put yourself on the doorstep and not against the wall. You put your ace in the mound and you go out with the mentality that we're going to win game 1 and then we're going to put ourselves in the World Series in game 2. We're not sure what's going to happen in game 1, but we want to have our ace just in case we lose game 1. That's not the mentality of a team that's going to win the World Series. And that's why, like we've touched on, one of the things Link Jarrett has done best is build a culture, build a winning mentality, a mentality that Notre Dame is not just going to win these games, but they're going to be on the same level in attitude and mentality as the rest of these big boys, the best of these blue bloods. I think that's, a move that really is pretty indicative of that, putting your ace in mound game 1, saying we want to take control of this regional. We want to be the team that's knocking on the door and not the team that's fighting for our lives in game 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. You want to go out there and be aggressive in the first game. And I'm with you. I think that Bertrand is the best pitcher. I know Jacob might disagree a little bit there. We can, go into the Jack Finley, John Michael Bertrand debate if you want to later. But I think that the, mental aspect is more important in baseball than any other sport. That you look at players who get into these really long slumps. You get 3 at-bats a game. If you don't get that one hit, that can make such a big difference in your psyche for the next game. And if Notre Dame can go out there and Bertrand can have himself an outing, even if he, only comes in for relief in game 3 and he's able to pitch well, that's going to do so much for the rest of the pitchers who follow him, whether that's, Liam Simon or Jack Finley or whoever they throw in for game 2 as well. That's just going to be such a boost for the team. And I think that the biggest question for me is, how the bats are going to deal with this Texas pitching. I think that Pete Hansen is a great pitcher. He's, Texas' best pitcher as well. He was an All-American this year, but I think, Eastern Carolina proved in this last series that you can get to him. If you can score on him in a hurry, especially if you're able to get, start tallying up those hits. He has one of the highest batting average on balls in play in the entire country. And that's largely indicative of how bad Texas's defense can be, that they're not some sort of, stout team. They make mistakes. They, let balls get by them in the gaps. And that's going to allow the speed of Notre Dame to get those extra bases and to start putting runners into scoring position. And if you keep tallying up those hits like Notre Dame can do, then that's going to lead to a lot of offense like Eastern Carolina was able to do when they were able to light up Hansen. So really, I just think they got to, try to do money ball. They got to steal bases. They got to try to get on base and they just got to put the ball in play as much as possible. Don't let Hansen strike you out. At least try to advance the runner as much as possible, because I don't trust this team to continue hitting the home runs at the same pace they have been in the past.
Yeah,
really,
and with Hansen, one thing that works in Notre Dame's favor is that he is a left-handed pitcher, and this is a very right-handed heavy Notre Dame lineup. 7 natural righties, I believe, and then the 2 switch hitters in Jared Miller and Spencer Myers. So you've got 9 guys hitting from the right side of the plate against Pete Hansen, which is something that definitely works in Notre Dame's favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like
and
you
I
talked
think-
about.
I think it goes
JJ.
the other way as well. One of the not dangers, there's never danger in putting John Michael Bertrand on the mound. One of the factors I think that is going to be interesting to watch is this is a Texas lineup that is heavily righty as well, and Bertrand's a lefty. So that's something that, I don't think it's enough to necessarily say we're going to switch up, our pitcher and we want to go with someone else. But it is something that I think, you have to accept that, statistically speaking, this is not a lineup that's going to favor Bertrand. This is a lineup that has a lot of righties in it. I believe it's, 8 righties and a switch hitter that hits lefty. And I think that's something that, if you're Notre Dame, you're not going to take Bertrand off the mound. But in the same way that Texas is kind of looking at that and, rubbing their hands, Notre Dame's looking at that and rubbing their hands a bit more nervously, because that is a lineup that, it's always your ace. You always give your ace the benefit of the doubt, but it's also not the best matchup possible.
Yeah, and it's going to be big, I think, for Notre Dame to put as many balls in play as possible this weekend. They're a team that does not strike out a lot, and Texas is a staff that, while they have been very good this year, they actually do not strike out a lot of hitters at all. I know John mentioned the defensive troubles that Texas had against East Carolina, and I know they did struggle at times defensively in that series. However, they are number 1 in the country in fielding percentage, so they are a pretty strong defensive team. So that just makes it even more important for Notre Dame to put pressure on this Texas defense, to really test them, because they're not a unit that's going to break very easily, and they can certainly make some big time plays. Their catcher on the MLB.com draft profile, but they have the 20/80 scales. He's got a 60 for his arm, which is rated as very above average. So that's something that's going to be tough for Notre Dame. We saw them get really aggressive against Tennessee with stolen bases. They may not be able to do that necessarily against Texas, at least in this first game. So they're going to have to find different ways to be aggressive, whether it's, attacking some of Texas's hitters, making sure, keep the pitch count down, hopefully for John Michael Bertrand, so that he's able to go deep in the game, or maybe trying to take an extra base on a ball hit into the gap or down the line or something like that. They're going to have to find different ways to be aggressive. And I think that's going to be key for this Notre Dame team. It's just not playing scared. Which is difficult against a formidable opponent like Tennessee or like Texas, both of them are top 10 teams in the nation. But the Irish should prove that they were up to the challenge in Knoxville, and they should be, up to the challenge again against Texas, regardless of what the outcome is.
And I think it goes back to like what we've talked about. Link Jarrett is a phenomenal coach in the regard, and I think this is many coaches stick with one game plan. They stick at their lineup. They're like, all right, I'm going to be a power guy. However, Link Jarrett is never afraid to play a little small ball. I'm a small ball guy. I love tossing down a bunt, using some people. Let's toss a sacrifice bunt out there. I understand you're going to sacrifice it now, but hey, let's work with it. And I think really Link Jarrett allows for that moment to dictate what's going to happen. And I think sometimes coaches at this high level, especially when you're talking about some of these great teams, they understand, all right, and they're understanding the stats and they're looking at it and they're playing a little money ball and they're like, all right, I have a better probability of hitting it out. However, Link Jarrett understands that you can play small ball and still win. That's Notre Dame baseball. Notre Dame baseball is winning baseball. There is no carbon copy, in my opinion, to what Notre Dame baseball looks like. I called the Purdue Fort Wayne game where they bunted and had 3 home runs. That doesn't happen anymore, guys. Like, this Notre Dame team is willing to win in any way possible, and they're a winning program. So I think that really goes back to Link Jarrett in saying that, you know what, I'm willing to scrap the entire playbook, that when time comes and I need to win this way, we can win that way. And I think it really goes back to, like JJ said, Link Jarrett, open up the blank checkbook, man. Because it's going to be a tough sell to stay, especially in a cold weather environment in South Bend. You're playing, like, we're talking about a series against Virginia Tech that literally did not get canceled due to weather. It got canceled due to the temperature being below freezing, and they couldn't play it. So, like,
That's baseball weather, by the way. They should have played that. That's my official statement. That's baseball weather.
Yeah, unless you're the Rockies getting literally snowed out, you got to play. Come on.
That's baseball weather.
I agree.
Yeah.
However,
we will make clear it's the heavy northerner desk right now, and that's probably not.
Yes,
that's not the best, but
But we're talking like, look at the teams we have here. You have Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Stanford. Guys, we're not in cold. Like, this is not cold weather. College baseball is like the powerhouses are down south, and it's going to be hard for Link Jarrett, especially when you're alma mater, Florida State, when he's been so prominent there and really has been a key to their success in their program, to not get him to go there. I think that's going to be tough. But really, Notre Dame has a decent way, and it's winning baseball right now in their way. However, I'm going to touch back on something that John said. I'm a Finley guy. I understand many people like John Michael Bertrand, he's been your guy. However, I'm always been under the impression, go with the hot arm. And really, can you tell me anybody hotter than right now than Jack Finley, who comes in and pitches 5 innings in relief out of the bullpen and does a great job, only allows 1 hit in Knoxville on that elimination game 3 and boasts a 1.99 ERA. It really is. Finley's the hot guy. And it also brings me a little bit more comfort going into this Texas game with starting John Michael Bertrand, knowing that you have Finley who can come out of the bullpen and pitch a decent ways.
Yeah. I mean, also, well, to that point, you're saying ride the hot hand, but I also think it's important to remember why Finley's the hot hand, which is they switched him to the bullpen. Finley by no means was a bad starting pitcher. He was a good starting pitcher, but what they've really utilized him best is they have brought him into this role where he can come in the 2nd inning. He can come in the 3rd inning. Whenever they want him in, he can come in and give you 5 innings in the bullpen, which is, I don't know what the switch was, what switch was flipped in Jack Finley's, arm, in his mind, whatever it was, that once he got in the bullpen, he showed like a level of composure that was, as a freshman, you don't expect, and certainly not a level of composure that, until that point, he had really shown himself. He was a good pitcher, but I think there was kind of, much like a lot of pitchers in the Notre Dame stable, there were kind of moments where you're like, if he gets into a jam, I don't really trust him to kind of work his way out of it. There's, kind of that wild thing, kind of characteristic to him where, it felt like at any given moment he could strike out the side and also give up, 3 straight base hits. But I think once he got in the bullpen, I don't know what the switch was, but he has shown, this control. He's shown this level of, kind of ability to both get into, positions as a pitcher where he can both take control of the game. He's had some 1, 2, 3 innings. And also when teams get a knock on him, like we talked about earlier, Tennessee's team, once they get 1 hit, you're in danger of giving up 3 hits then. And even though he gave up that hit, he rallied back. He fought his way back. And I think that's, kind of a testament to his composure and his ability to kind of manage crisis. And I think that's exactly what you want in a reliever, especially against a team like Texas, that if you get into a jam, I don't know what the situation might be, maybe runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. That's a pitcher that you can bring in and be confident that he's going to take control of the situation no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, and the big thing with Finley, I think is important, is that he can throw multiple innings. We've got John Michael Bertrand starting game 1 for Notre Dame. You got Austin Temple going to start game 2 for Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's still playing, who's starting game 3? It could be Liam Simon again, maybe. I mean, he only went an inning and 2/3 innings, but whoever starts that game, they're probably not going to give you more than 3 innings. And so having someone like Jack Finley back there who can get you to the back part of the game or finish the game from the middle of it, like we saw on Sunday against Tennessee, having someone like that who can eat up multiple innings and is really an outstanding pitcher, it's almost unheard of out of the bullpen. It's a little bit more uncommon in college baseball than it is in the major leagues or professional leagues. But it's still pretty rare. And having someone like Finley who can be so reliable for multiple innings at a time, at any time in the game, whether it's the start, the middle, or at the end, as we've seen more recently, having that type of versatility is so important. That's the thing that Link Jarrett talked about with the Notre Dame team this past weekend against Tennessee, why they're able to win is their versatility. And Jack Finley is a guy who really is the epitome of that.
So that point about game 3, may I say that's why I love this matchup because Notre Dame and Texas, both once you get past their kind of 1 guys, there's not a ton of like known quantities. Like you said, it might be Liam Simon, but it might not. Like, it's not like Liam Simon really staked his claim as that 3rd pitcher on his chance. The Irish won the game, but he still got taken out in the 2nd inning. And it still felt like kind of once you get past Bertrand and Temple as the 1-2 punch, there's no 3rd punch. It's 1-2 and then figure it out with maybe a kick or something. But like if you're Texas, you're in the same spot. Once you get past Pete Hansen, you got a bunch of arms, Lucas Gordon, Tristan Stevens, Aaron Nixon, a bunch of guys that have given a good amount of innings, but none of them who have given the extent none of them who have the stats that Pete Hansen have. And in every, go-to game, Texas has put Pete Hansen on the mound. To open up Big 12 championship, they put Pete Hansen on. Start up regionals, they put Pete Hansen on the mound. To start up super regionals, they put Pete Hansen on the mound. He's going to start on the mound against the Irish. If they go to the third game, you can't put Pete Hansen on the mound, and that's going to be a game where it's do or die. So I think that if we see a rematch of these two teams in game 3, for whatever reason, if double elimination shakes out like that, it's going to be one of the most fascinating matchups from a pure, what are they going to do perspective? Because if you're Notre Dame, you don't have a proven quantity at your third striker. And if you're Texas, a third striker, a third pitcher. And if you're Texas, you don't have a proven quantity at your third pitcher. I think that's something that, as a fan and as a writer, as a, just someone who likes to watch good baseball, it's going to be very interesting to see who rises to the occasion. Who's the person that takes the ball in game 3 for both teams and either seizes the moment or gives up a big game.
Yeah.
John, I'll let you
Almost
get the
had
final
yourself an
word.
Eminem quote there. Got to capture it or let it slip. But no, I'm with you there. I just can't imagine beating this Texas team. They still had Tanner Witt, underwent season-ending surgery at the beginning of the year. But I do think it is very much winnable now. I think game 1's going to decide it. I really do, because I think that you have the two aces going head-to-head here. And I think that game 3, I like Notre Dame pulling that out because I like their depth more than I like Texas's depth for throwing out extra pitchers there. I think, obviously you're going to need Alex Rao or Liam Simon to give you, some decent innings before Finley can take over. Because I did think at the end of that game 3 against Tennessee, he was starting to lose control a bit in the later part of that game. So I do question how much you can stretch him. But I think if you can get him for just, 4 or 5 innings, lights out. And that's a lot of it has to do with his spin rate. It's been clocked in at over 2,600 RPM, which is very, very good, even for professional players. And even though he only touches 90 miles per hour, a little higher on that fastball, it's the spin that really, trips up the players at the plate and makes him such an effective pitcher. And I just really am excited to see how the series is going to play out. I don't know. I like Texas. I thought, following the College World Series and the Super Regionals, I like Texas a lot. I thought people were saying Stanford as their favorite after Tennessee went down, and they've been the number 2 all year long. I think Texas is just so hot, and they have just so much depth in their roster, 1 through 9. All those guys can get you a hit. A lot of those guys can hit with power. I think it's going to be just a chess match between Bertrand and David LaManna and Link Jarrett. How are they going to pitch to guys like Ivan Melendez? How are you going to go about that? The man can go and get pitches out of the zone too and send them 400 feet over the fence. So it's really going to be interesting to me how they do that. But I think game 1 is going to be the most pivotal one in the series. They capture that, maybe they win game 2, maybe they drop that one, but I trust game 3 Notre Dame to pull it out simply because of the depth of their pitching as opposed to Texas.
And like we talked about, game 1 of the Men's College World Series for Notre Dame is Friday at 6 p.m. on ESPN primetime. And a quick stat, Notre Dame is 11-3 when they play at 6 p.m. or later. For Andrew McGuiness, I know, Andrew McGuiness, John Bailey, JJ Post, this is our virtual episode of Shamrock Sports.
Irish 2.
We'll talk to you maybe if we get to the College World Series. We'll see you later, guys.